Tremble in the light. I judge you. Tremble to the light. No mercy. I judge you. Pay for your problems. I'm with you. No mercy. I judge you. I judge you. I judge you. Guilty. Be purified. Light. Light. Guilty.
就这样留给你那么爱那么好，所以你才对我那么骄傲。对你来说我不重要，可是我习惯了礼貌旁观你所有微笑，你就这样留给你。
欢迎收看五转技能展示。刚入坑的你们是不是很犹豫要选什么本尊呢？帅气的技能展示让选择不再困难。圣骑士五转技能 ，Let's go！ 神圣团结，圣骑士的五转一技，攻辅一体的 buff 技能，大幅提升与队友伤害的同时，将技能施展于队友身上，创造1+1大于2的效果。祝福之锤，圣骑士的五转二技，攻击时可创造锤子守护自身，在神圣之力的祝福下，锤子将化身审判铁锤制裁敌人。圣十字架，圣骑士的五转三技，超爆发技能，施展时可小幅度位移，把神圣之力的十字架解放，将一切邪恶净化殆尽。雷神战锤，圣骑士的五转四技可累积2次，向前方投掷战锤，对有邪念之人疯狂追击，直至消失为止。以上就是圣骑士五转技能展示啦，你的订阅支持就是我的动力，拜酷吗？欢迎收看五转技能展示。刚入坑的你们是不是很犹豫要选什么本尊呢？帅气的技能展示让选择不再困难。圣骑士五转技能 ，Let's go！ 神圣团结，圣骑士的五转一技，攻辅一体的 buff 技能，大幅提升与队友伤害的同时，将技能施展于队友身上，创造1+1大于2的效果。祝福之锤，圣骑士的 欢迎收看五转技能展示。刚入坑的你们是不是很犹豫要选什么本尊呢？帅气的技能展示让选择不再困难。黑骑士五转技能 ，Let's go！ 断罪之枪，黑骑士的五转一技丢出带有审判之力的长枪，将有罪之人送入无间炼狱。暗灵冲击，黑骑士的五转二技召唤万恶的索伦邪眼，将目视到的一切给予暗黑冲击。枪刺旋风，黑骑士的五转三技化身鬼神，使出狂风暴雨般的疯狂枪击，毁灭的旋风席卷战场。黑暗灵气，黑骑士的五转四技释放暗灵附体，吸收已逝去的灵魂，再次释放。黑暗女死神将挥舞镰刀，收割万物。喜欢肯伦的五转技能展示吗？你的订阅支持就是我的动力。Like 吗？欢迎收看五转技能展示。刚入坑的你们是不是很犹豫要选什么本尊呢？帅气的技能展示让选择不再困难。黑骑士五转技能 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 ，Let's go！ 断罪之枪，黑骑士的五转一技丢出带有审判之力的长枪，将有罪之人送入无间炼狱。暗灵冲击，黑骑士的五转二技召唤万恶的索伦邪眼，将目视到的一切给予暗黑冲击。枪刺旋风，黑骑士的五转三技化身鬼神，使出狂风暴雨般的疯狂枪击，毁灭的旋风席卷战场。黑暗灵气，黑骑 气势的五转世纪，释放暗灵附体，吸收已逝去的灵魂，再次释放。黑暗女死神将挥舞镰刀，收割万物。喜欢肯伦的五转技能展示吗？
It's hopeless.
欢迎收看五转技能展示。刚入坑的你们是不是很犹豫要选什么本尊呢？帅气的技能展示让选择不再困难。狂狼勇士五转技能 ，Let's go！ 马哈之旗，狂狼的五转一技是 buff 技能，使用后强化自身并提升 combo， 每3秒攻击时还会刮起暴雪，追加伤害。挥动马哈，狂狼的五转二技是大范围输出技能，配合马哈之旗可更快使用，对周围使出无差别的全图攻击。芬里尔坠击，狂狼的五转三技是连续技能，强化比耀德拥有第4下攻击，召唤巨大芬里尔狼再现吞噬奥丁的威能。疾冰风暴，狂狼的五转4技是超爆发的绑王技能，将目标周围空气凝结，随着狂狼暴雨般的攻击，如同身在疾冰地狱。以上就是狂狼勇士。
你的怀疑。
창녀의 힘이여 내 검을 깃들어 모든 것을 태어내라.
Halo, balik lagi bersama Sematin event ini ya, event yang ini. Saya sudah jelaskan kemarin dan sekali lagi digiring opininya, padahal udah jelas di situ. Ya udahlah ya, jangan umumnya. NXPC ya, dimasukin seperti ini. Ini ya, ini hanya contoh. Di sini inventory ya, bos-bos yang dulu bisa selesaikan field untuk yang tadi nyari Neso, bos juga di sini, masukin di sini. Kota utama lur di mana?
I guess it is blessed. Miracle Knowledge is a passive that gives you a 25% chance to inflict an enemy with a stacking buff. Each stack gives you 3% extra damage in IED, and stacks up to 3 times for a total of 9% damage and IED on said enemy. 10-second duration on the debuff, no cooldown, and you can constantly refresh it by just being in combat. Like all other Explorer Link skills, this Link stacks with the other class types, Bishop and Fire Poison Mage, for its max level of 6. Really handy Link, especially while bossing. Alright, time to get into the actual skills, starting from first job. A passive that gives attack speed and mana every time you level up, another passive for flat defense, this basic little mobbing skill that shoots an energy bolt forward, and Magic Guard, which is the basic toggle across most mage classes in Maple. Turn it on, and a portion of the damage you take is displaced and instead reduced from your mana instead of your health. Lastly, mobility skills. Teleport makes you, well, teleport in any one direction you're holding, up, down, left, or right. It can be used in the air, even on ropes and ladders, and it pairs nicely with your other mobility skill, Mana Wave. You can either click the up arrow and jump again while in the air to activate it, or bind it to its own key to simply let you fly upwards really quick. If you hold down the skill key or press and hold up after up jumping, you'll float in the air, gradually floating on down back to the ground. That floaty portion stops after about 5 seconds, and you can teleport out of either the launch.
There's a simple way to protect your privacy online and get full access to worldwide content. That's with a VPN. Here's how it works. VPN stands for Virtual Private Network. ExpressVPN is a VPN provider with servers in more than 160 locations around the world. When you connect to the internet with ExpressVPN, you can encrypt your online activity and make yourself appear to be in any of these locations. This means you can use popular apps and services that are censored where you are, or overcome restrictions set by your school or office Wi-Fi network. A few taps and you'll be streaming shows from around the world, accessing social media, and shopping for good deals. With a VPN, your internet traffic travels through a secure tunnel, which keeps your online activity private. This means your personal information and communications are protected, including on unsecured public Wi-Fi networks. It's easy to use too. Simply download the ExpressVPN app onto your router, tablet, computer, or phone. Then turn the VPN on and select your preferred location. That's all there is to it. Join the millions around the world who are taking control of their online lives. Download ExpressVPN now.
Or the float. Second job is where you actually become an elemental magician. See? 4 ice and lightning centric skills. Cold Beam is just a basic mobbing skill that freezes and slows enemies that get hit by it. Thunderbolt shoots lightning down all around you. And Chilling Step makes your teleport an offensive skill. Toggle it on, and every time you teleport, there's a chance you'll leave behind chunks of ice that freeze and damage enemies. 6-second duration on the ice chunks. Lastly, for the elementals at second, Freezing Crush gives critical damage every time you attack enemies with your elements. Attacking frozen enemies gives 2% crit damage per stack, and attacking frozen enemies with your lightning skills gives you 9% damage per stack. It doesn't say this on any of your skills, but you can build up to 5 total of these freeze stacks. You also get this cool magic attack party buff, meditation, and a bunch of passives from mastery, attack speed, flat stats, and MP Eater gives you a chance to restore mana with every attack you do. Third job gives all these passives for, yep, more basic expected stats you gain throughout your job ranks, crit rate and damage, extra mana, final damage, elemental decrease, which is underrated, and then also these 2 passives that are not so basic. Shatter ignores enemy defense, depending entirely on how many stacks they have on them, 2% for each stack. And Storm Magic gives you extra final damage on enemies that are debuffed in certain ways. Namely damage over time, dot, freeze, stun, darkness, or paralysis. Obviously the important one here for us is the freeze, with us being, you know, ice-based and all. These 2 new toggles are really nice. Teleport Boost simply increases your teleport range, and Teleport Mastery makes your teleport not only do damage to enemies, but also grants a chance to stun them, too. So with last job's Chilling Step, you could theoretically just keep teleporting around a map to grind. Elemental Adaptation is just a fairly useful just-in-case type buff that places a permanent buff on you, protecting you against one initial debuff of some kind. Once you're debuffed to some degree, it pops a barrier that blocks additional debuffs for the next 30 seconds. It also passively gives resistances. 4-minute cooldown once it does activate. Lastly, Frost Ward shoves enemies back and does some damage. Ice Strike is your basic mobbing skill at 3rd, attacking around you, freezing enemies and all that. And Thunder Sphere is a giant ball of lightning that follows you around for 2 minutes and attacks enemies nearby it. If you hold down and press this skill, it spawns in place for a minute, just regularly attacking enemies at like 1-second intervals. Placing the sphere down in one area, weirdly enough, has a 30-second cooldown for some reason. Oh, it also does increase normal enemy damage. That's useful for grinding. 4th job has a lot of new goodies. Like, look at Maple Warrior and Hero's Will. Passive all stats and a cleanse? Whoa! Of course there's also a handful of passives, but these are all fairly different from what you'd expect from the usual job level passives. Buff Mastery increases the duration of all your buffs, as well as gives some extra magic attack and knockback resistance. Frost Clutch is an upgrade to Freezing Crush back from 2nd job, giving some more damage for each of its stack values. And Arcane Aim gives flat IED on your attacks, with each successful attack giving you a stack increasing your damage and stacking up to 5 times. That's pretty nifty. Infinity is the defensive Explorer Mage buff, increasing your final damage by 70% when you initially cast it, and gradually increasing throughout the duration of the buff up to a cap. Remember that Buff Mastery passive? Yeah, that and all other sources of buff duration increase the duration of Infinity too, which is really nice to have out for as long as you possibly can. 3-minute cooldown. Moving on to attacks, hello, the defining skill of this entire class. Chain Lightning is pretty good. It's your main attacking skill for both grinding and bossing, has a large initial range from the first cast, and then just keeps chaining to mobs behind the first. You know, like in a chain. It goes pretty far with its mob chaining, but doesn't have too high a vertical range. Blizzard drops icicles down all around where you cast it, and gives a passive to all your attacks that have a chance to spawn icicles that hit one enemy. 45-second cooldown. Elkwines is an icy summon that just attacks enemies periodically, and passively increases your mastery. Lasts a while, and there's no cooldown. Have it out all the time. Frozen Orb is a giant ball of ice that flies horizontally forward, and slowing down with enemies it makes contact with, both damaging and slowing them like every other ice skill you have. Shocking, I know. It doesn't say it anywhere on the skill, but the orb itself stays out for about 3 to 4 seconds, and has a 5-second cooldown. Lastly, Freezing Breath is an odd skill. It's a hold down bind that's also an iframe? So firstly, it does the usual typical binds enemies it hits, but this one in specific binds them for 13 seconds, which I think makes it the second longest bind in the entire game, right behind Kana's 15-second bind. Secondly, you're invincible the entire time you hold it down, and it can be held down for up to 10 seconds. Thirdly, it also reduces the magic and weapon defense of said enemies it hits by 30% and 15% respectively. 2-minute cooldown. Hyper passives keep up the icy coolness factor rolling, starting with this lightning skill. Wait, Lightning Orb is a hold down attack that just shocks anything trapped inside of its area. It hits a bunch of times, does a bunch of damage, can be held up to 2 seconds, and at the very end, it does one final hit for even more damage. 1-minute cooldown. Epic Adventure is a nice little buff that gives 10% damage for you and all other Explorer classes in your party. 1 minute uptime, 2-minute cooldown. Lastly, Absolute Zero Aura, much like the name implies, is an ice toggle. It gives some resistances, reduces damage taken, and builds up freeze stacks up to the usual cap of 5. Your party members also get all these non-freeze stats as well when they're standing nearby you. If you hold down and press the skill, it instead places down a vortex, supplying the same defenses and freeze stacks. 30-second duration, 1-minute cooldown. On to hyper passives. Teleport Mastery has some okay upgrades, 1 for extra teleport damage, 1 for extra mobs hit, and 1 that increases your teleport range in all directions. Out of any of these, yeah, you'll want range mainly for all the extra vertical mobility. Keep in mind though, you can't use it unless you replace your whole teleport boost toggle, since it doesn't work alongside it, and instead replaces it entirely. I figured that might be worth mentioning because I didn't even notice I wasn't using mine at all until making this video and reading everything thoroughly. Whoops. Anyways, moving on to Chain Lightning. Generally, everything here is good to get. This is your main spammable attacking skill, so Reinforce and Extra Strike you'll absolutely want above all else. Spread is really good too for grinding, as that ups the mobs you're chaining with each chain lightning hit from 6 to 8. Though I'd argue it's optional if you wanted to focus more on what's optimal for bossing, for whatever reason. Though there's not much else to get in favor of specifically that, other than Teleport Mastery Reinforce, which is kinda whatever. Lastly, Frozen Orb you'll absolutely want Reinforce for the extra damage. Spread, again, is okay for mobbing, but you're much better off just spending that point in Chain Lightning Spread instead. Critical chance is just really bad. Even if you were low on critical rate and weren't quite at 100% yet, why would you up the crit chance on this of all skills? Realistically, yeah, just get Reinforce, along with these 4 other passives. Let's move on to 5th job now. Bolt Barrage is like a souped up lightning version of Frozen Orb. Click it, and a bolt of lightning keeps crashing down forward in front of you, and stops on an enemy until it depletes entirely, or fells said enemy. It spawns 8 lightning bolts, and has a 40-second cooldown at all levels. Jupiter Thunder tosses a ball of lightning forward, going into enemies and constantly shocking them either until they're defeated, or until the skill runs out after 30 shocks. It also attacks enemies nearby to the one affected enemy, and once one enemy is defeated, it keeps traveling forward to the next, either until it depletes entirely, or can't find an enemy in said trajectory before it disappears. So basically another Bolt Barrage / Frozen Orb. However, this one increases your final damage with lightning-based attacks on said affected enemies. 2-minute cooldown, going down by 3.4 seconds for every shock that wasn't used before it expired. Spirit of Snow is a big ol' placedown skill, summoning an ice goddess in an area, and periodically attacking enemies in said area. That's it, really. She can also build up to 3 stacks when targeting a singular enemy, for whatever that's worth. 30-second duration, 2-minute cooldown. Ice Age is more or less a stronger version of Blizzard from 4th job. It attacks all around you, and also litters the ground in ice that is the same as your teleporting one, freezing enemies that touch it. No passive ice attack though, 1-minute cooldown. On to the shared skills, starting with the mage ones. Mana Overload is a toggle that increases the damage of nearly all your attacks and summons, at the cost of a percentage of your mana broadcast of said skills. It lasts forever, either until you run out of mana, or toggle it off. When initially toggled on, it has a 1-minute cooldown, going down to 30 seconds at max level. Ethereal Form gives you a super stance and displaces most damage you'd normally take to your health by instead being a flat amount of your mana. Slightly different from Magic Guard, and still pretty useful. Soon in the future update, Ethereal Form will instead change to be very simply just an iframe, so watch out for that in some update in a few months. 3-second duration, 1-minute cooldown. Shared Explorer skills are great. Starting with the simpler of the two. Maple World Goddess's Blessing just makes your Maple Warrior way stronger for a whole minute, as well as increases your damage. 2-minute cooldown. Unreliable Memory lets you use an extra cooldown skill of your choosing, from 3rd or 4th job, ignoring said skill's own cost and cooldown. You choose what skill you want through this other skill, Mind Delve, which brings up a menu of 6 skills to choose from, including Infinity. Press the skill once you've made your choice, and there you have it, another use of one of your bigger skills. The cooldown for Unreliable Memory is a bit convoluted, with it being based on the level of the skill you chose to cast, and set probability rates. I don't want to get too deep into it, but it's marginally. Here's the table the IL Google Doc provides as a breakdown. Curious though. IL isn't difficult or that in depth. I know. You won't believe me unless I show you. Take her easy. So Infinity is one of your most important skills. Unreliable Memory in that regard is out of the 6 spots to choose from in Mind Delve, the only one you'd ever want to consider really is Infinity. Properly, with enough buff duration, you can cycle both skills back and forth pretty much, like, infinitely. That's a really nice final damage up. It does help a lot while grinding, but this is a must for bossing. There's a fun and fairly useful mechanic that just all mages with a teleport to do in Maple. Teleporting, wild duck. Hold down the down key, press I to the attack key, in IL's case. Then while still holding down, teleport either left or right during the cooked animation. There's a bunch of later on bosses like Saren and Black Mage that have mechanics that you can duck under to avoid, as well as a few early on bosses like Dane. Thanks IL Discord for including this in your guide. I'm not sure how I never knew about this. I'll make a quick mention of Frozen Orb having a very weird niche bug. This applies to Digimons too if they steal Frozen Orb, by the way. Their computer's uptime totals over about a month in length. Frozen Orb will suddenly just stop doing damage entirely. This is to concern the computer, so having on little bug for around a decade or more. Moving on. For grinding, yeah, you can probably guess by now. Don't forget about your summons too, though. Elkwines can hit around you occasionally, and Thunder Sphere, more specifically in its placedown mode, decides to once you start one shot. You try to improve Urda, Fountain, and Will skill if you have those, and summons that can hit around you too. While it's largely not necessary, you can also toss out any or all of the stuff, either when you go to loot the map, or whenever you just feel like for whatever reason. Frozen Orb is an option too, more condensed and smaller maps, and once you're one-shot with that. At 6th job, Soul Janus is always a mainstay for every class. Both for the option of either non-orbs, acting as more placed-out summons in a minute, or Dusk, to get it out around you. For bossing, let's start off by setting up your sequence skills. Okay, IL doesn't have much to sequence. Regardless, using the sequence button still saves a bit of time when you click all of these when you start gearing up to burst. It casts them all faster than you can manually click them. Just toss on everything that isn't your infinity pretty much. Get off the conditions, get the most out of your burst, and that's it. Don't forget that your Vine, Freezing Breath, is one of the longest bindings in the game. 13 seconds long. The item aspect of it, nice too, but you'll mainly want to use it whenever your party allows you to bind, both for its long duration and for its movement reducing debuff. 30% and 15% respectively. Pretty nice. Elemental adaptation is a nice protective spell, especially given the fact it never expires before it wants a status condition. More specifically, it's the more common case of blobs. Any better unique to a boss like status or specific such. So seals, seduces, poisons, basic stuns, etc. Those are all good to be safe from. But anything on this list from the greatest library, maximize your damage to a boss. You'll want to have 3 stacks going near constantly as much as possible, thanks to how it works with the Freezing Crush and Frost Clutch. In fact, stacked enemies with lightning skills give 12% damage per frost stack, giving a total of 60% extra damage. That's pretty big. While things like Elkwines and Sequels are larger than high frost stacks, the main source of your stacks will come from Frozen. That's Aura/Vortex and Poison down. Thunder Sphere supplies a nice chunk of your overall damage too, whether it's placed down or falling to the ground. In bossing, there's not much reason why you really want to follow you around at all times. Unless the boss is stationary, you have to run for safety. In party play, Meditation is a nice party buff for any classes that use magic attack, with Absolute Zero's extra defenses. Ending off this section, I'll state it one more time. Like around Infinity and Unreliable Memories version of Infinity. Very important. Since IL is a typical standard mage type class, they get a choice between staff. If you're not sure which to pick, this one's called Staff. There's zero downside to picking the staff, as it gives more flat magic attack over every other wand equivalent. One gets one very minimal bonus, which is 5% extra crit rate. Nowadays, that's pretty worthless, seeing as you can hit the crit rate cap extremely comfortably. Wand and staff attack speeds do differ, but this doesn't affect mages in any way, since they go off the separate hidden stat of spell speed, even if things like speed infusion and attack speed +1 in their ability boost their spell speed. But anyways, the only reason you'd ever want to consider wand over staff for would purely be for visual, aesthetic purposes. That is it. Moving on, what secondary does IL want? So they get a choice between